Right, and after more than impressing in his first two games against the best sides in the league, there's been lots of talk about Michael Carrick and should he get the job on a full-time basis at the end of the season. And is it... I know I spoke about getting carried away at the beginning of the show. That was just us getting giddy as United fans. In terms of the conversation steering after two games that Michael Carrick should be getting the permanent job here, is it too early to have those type of conversations, or is it fair, or at the very least, should he already be having to be considered for the permanent job?
I understand why the question is being asked. I understand why he's being asked. I understand why it's a topic of discussion. For me personally, I just think it's a bit too soon, and I don't really think that we need that pressure at the moment, because I think we just need to focus on this final stretch of the Premier League season, us getting into Europe. I think that is my personal focus. But I get why people are saying it. I do just think it's a little bit early for this. I think a lot of people have obviously got PTSD from the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer situation. And I know that I really like that Wayne Rooney and Michael Carrick are clearly friends. You know, reportedly, you know, they were in Barbados with Johnny Evans for New Year's and all that type of stuff. I love how Rooney is riding for his man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's saying, well, you know, he was at an academy game. You know, Ruben Amorim wasn't seen. And Ruben Amorim, to be fair, was not pictured at any of these games. You know, I think he saw a game at Carrington. And that is great that Michael Carrick is doing that. It's a bit of a reach from Rooney, but I like that he's you know, backing his man in that sense. And yeah, that is lovely. But I guess when you've only got one game a week, you probably have got a little bit more spare time to be going and watching those games. But I do just think that we need to take a beat. And I'm not saying completely be totally delusional and just live in the moment, but in a way it's okay to just kind of accept what's happening now and enjoy it. I think that conversation can come a little bit later. I think that he definitely deserves his props, because these two games that we've played, we have played very exciting football against two teams that aren't really that exciting to watch, if you're being completely honest. I mean, like, you know, Man City normally attempt to play, you know, piggy in the middle rather than an actual football match. You know, you don't really see them kind of scoring those goals that we scored from outside the box. You'd normally expect them to kind of pass it to the side. Arsenal, you know, described as a little bit robotic at times. To be able to go into both those games, approach them tactically, but do it, like I mentioned earlier, with exciting football, you know, he has to be praised for that. I agree with Crookie. I think that Fulham will be the real test to see if things have actually turned round, because it is the easier teams that Man United have struggled to beat. But I think we enjoy it for what it is. I can't say if he should or shouldn't be the manager.
Yeah.
I don't have enough evidence yet.
You have to just wait.
But I get why people are getting excited, but I think we just need to just live in the moment.
Crookie, has Roy Keane gone too far the other way? Because he's adamant that no matter what happens, Michael Carrick definitely shouldn't get the job. Obviously, he's had some
vendetta, though.
Exactly, he's had some personal.
He's letting
beefs,
it get the best of him, I think.
With him, he's had some things to say, and people have, you know, put a whole string of personal situations that he's saying when it's coming with Carrick versus when he's talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But now all of a sudden, Carrick definitely shouldn't get it. Do you agree with that sentiment, that no matter what happens, he shouldn't get it, and or not?
I think probably that's going too far. But you take Roy Keane's personal grievances aside, I can understand the argument for saying it, because we've been down this road before. We all got too swept up in what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did in what was actually quite a favourable run of fixtures as interim manager. Certainly you can't accuse Carrick of having a favourable start to his tenure. But there are very few examples, actually, if you go back through the Premier League era, where a caretaker manager comes in, does well, gets the job and continues to do well. I think more often than not, it unravels quite quickly. I think it's far too early to even be having this debate. I don't want to get involved in the conversation, really, because it is only two games. There are another, 15 have we got left now between now and the end of the season? So let's judge him then. If we get to the end of the season and we've qualified for the Champions League and we've won even 13 out of his 17 games, then I think he's got a genuine case to go knocking on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's door and saying, look, what more could I do? Give me the job full time. That's if he wants it, of course. And he was asked in the radio interviews after the game at the weekend, it is far too early to talk about you getting the job permanently. And he just gave a one-word answer. He just said yes and moved on to the next topic. So I think he's aware that this is very much a short-term job that he's been given to try and qualify for Europe, try and get in the Champions League if we can, and then see what happens after that. But as I say, if he wins a massive percentage of games, then it would be a risk, wouldn't it, to replace him and bring in someone like Thomas Tuchel and have to start all over again.
Yeah, exactly. I've been sort of flirting with the idea of what it looks like, because at the start, that sort of PTSD and being scarred from what happened with Ollie just immediately makes me think, right, we'll get Carrick to calm it down, but by any means is he supposed to get this job. That's fine. I'm comfortable with that. And then you go and get, like you say, a Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Enrique, etc. Go and get a proper manager. But I've probably been a little bit naive in terms of thinking just because it happened with Ollie, it means it's going to happen with Carrick. They are also sort of polar opposite coaches. The way that Michael Carrick is playing football, different team. The way Michael Carrick is setting this team up and the way he's playing seems, after 2 games, we still have to wait and see. I'm talking about if we get to the situation where in the summer he has actually put the work in and got us into the top 4. He would have done it in a way that wouldn't have looked like Ollie, in my opinion, with the 2 contrasts of how the coaches are. So we also can't, just because we've made mistakes in the past, not be scared to reset. It's like if we go and get a big manager, it's the same thing. We've had Mourinho, we've had Van Gaal, we've also done that before. We're in a case now where we've actually done everything. We just need to keep probing, keep doing things until we get to the right guy, whoever that may be. And maybe our past failures shouldn't just cloud our judgment too much going forward. Otherwise, we won't do anything.
Before we crack on with this debate, just got a message in the talkSPORT breaking news group. Not good news, I'm afraid. The Athletic are reporting that Patrick Dorgu's injury is going to keep him out for 10 weeks. It's quite a serious hamstring issue.
Dorgu.
What awful luck.
And you know what, when he went down injured, I thought, is that just, it's very rarely precaution with the hamstring. It means at least a few weeks, but 10 weeks for Ballon Dorgu.
Well, that answers our question, though, doesn't it?
Best.
Sorry, that nickname.
Dorgy Best, yeah.
Just made me chuckle.
Cunha, there you go. There's your extended run on the left. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
That's
a real sickener, that.
That is so... I mean, not that you want anyone to be injured, but of all the people, you've had, a stinker of a season so far, let's be honest. You've had your manager come out and say, I'm nervous every time that he's got hold of the ball. And he's come back from that and he's fought and he's worked really hard. Because like I said last week, a lot of journalists have been speaking about him. A few people have interviewed him and he really has apparently got to work, especially after Ruben Amorim came out and, dogged him out to the media. You then have this dream set up under Michael Carrick. You score these absolutely fantastic goals. That goal against Arsenal, one of the best goals we will see in this Premier League season, 1,000%. So to then have an injury just when everything's starting to click, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, you're living out, playing at Old Trafford, playing, scoring these goals against Arsenal, one of our biggest rivals. Such a shame for him. Such a shame. I feel so bad for him.
It is 10 weeks, man. I mean, that's going into 3-month territory, really.
I mean, he's impressed us so far. Could he become a medical marvel and somehow
not 10 weeks.
No.
Well, the message I've just had from a source at United is that it's still being assessed and timescale not clear at this stage. But
I think
it doesn't sound particularly positive, does it? I do wonder, and I know we were going to come on to this, should this change the approach in the final week of the transfer window now? Because the squad looks light. I know Michael Carrick ideally would love another body in midfield. The club stance is we're not going to do anything for the short term. If an opportunity became available that would benefit the club long term, then yes, we would look at it. But I think he's earned the right with these 2 games, Michael Carrick, and with this news about Dorgu, to ask Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada, look, just give me a little bit of help here. Just get me a couple of bodies in on loan for the rest of the season, and we've got a real chance of getting in the top 4 or 5.
I think it just depends. We were going to get to transfers, and we've got there quite naturally. I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sure because I think there's 1 game a week. The team is settled. We've got a few competition for places now. We've lost a massive player who really this is a sickening blow.
But what if Cunha picks up an injury as well? What you can do down that left hand side? Then I guess you got Mason Mount.
You've got Ahmad and Bruno.
Mason Mount isn't reliable when it comes to injuries.
I'm just saying, do we risk upsetting the balance of bringing in people for the sake of bringing in people? They don't play, or they start to play instead of the guys who have been settled.
Depends.
And I just think for 15 games with no other competitions. I don't know. I'm worried that we just go chasing after it out of panic when it's like okay, listen, it's a big blow, Dorgu's injured, but I think we can get through. I honestly do. Listen, I'm not. If there's somebody to get, fine. If there's something that works on loan, I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying if the door slams shut and we don't, I don't think that's a catastrophe personally.
It's a hard one because it depends who it is. If it's a name that you think could realistically help out, if it's a name that you're a little bit unsure of, they might be more of a hindrance than they would be a help in reality. It depends. I mean, Crook, is there anyone... I mean, I know you've only just got this news about Dorgu, but I guess we're going to talk about transfers.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, have there been any whispers of anyone?
Well, I did a piece in the Notebook last week saying that Ruben Loftus-Cheek had been offered to United. There was also talk of Wilfred and Didi. I think that was more if Ollie got the job, because obviously he played with him at Besiktas. So I think, as I say, that midfield area was what they were potentially looking at. But again, message from my source at the club, I've asked, do you think this could change the approach in the window? They say they'd be surprised if it does alter their thinking. So it might be that Michael Carrick has to go with what he's got for the rest of the season. I would personally take a Loftus-Cheek on loan just for that extra body, that extra option off the bench. I know he's had a check at injury history as well, but it's not an expensive deal to do. I just think it'd be such a shame in this position with a decent set of fixtures on the horizon between now and the end of the season, if we were to fall up short in terms of getting a Champions League place because we picked up too many injuries and we had to go in with the type of squad we had in that game against Newcastle at Old Trafford. I think they'd be kicking themselves the hierarchy, because maybe it's an opportunity they didn't foresee at the start of the season. I don't think any of us expected Liverpool to drop off a cliff as much as they have. I think we all expected that Thomas Frank might get Tottenham in a more competitive position. They're not. Even Chelsea, they've gone from Enzo Maresca, who won the Club World Cup, to a rookie and Liam Rosenior. So I do think fourth and fifth is there for United.
Yeah, it is. Listen, I know this isn't for January. This isn't the time we're talking as something that is able to happen. But Cole Palmer, Crookie, we have seen some reports saying that, he's homesick and he would be interested in a move back to Manchester United. Of course, not now in January, maybe not even this summer. But how true do you think that is about just the situation that is around Cole Palmer and these reports that are claiming that he would be interested to that in the near future?
Well, listen, he's never someone who plays with a smile on his face. But I think you look at his demeanour and his body language. When I've been at Stamford Bridge recently, and he looks like he'd rather be anywhere else now. I think that's partly because he's still not fully fit and maybe he doesn't trust his body, so he's not able to put a complete shift in, which is frustrating. But I do think he's very much a Manchester boy, Wythenshawe born, spends a lot of time still up in the northwest. So I think if he got the opportunity to go back, then it's certainly one that he would consider. I don't think it's seen as a priority position for United in the summer. We know they want to strengthen in midfield, but the three names on their list are still very much Carlos Baleba, Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson. As I said before, I wouldn't rule out trying to sign two of those three. So I don't really see where they get the money for Cole Palmer. But if Bruno Fernandes goes, as is a possibility, then maybe there would be a role there for him. But Chelsea are going to demand well in excess of 100 million. So I just don't see how it stacks up for United. And it opens up a separate debate on Bruno Fernandes, who I thought, again, was brilliant in the game against Arsenal. His range of passing, his bravery on the ball, his ability to turn defence into attack. Again, now that Michael Carrick is playing him in his proper position, I think we've got to pull out all the stops to keep Bruno Fernandes. If you said to me now, on form, would you rather keep an ageing Bruno Fernandes or bring in a younger modelling Cole Palmer? I'm going to stick with Bruno, guys. I'm going to stick with Bruno.
Is that the right take there? And you said you agree, because it is that one where you know what you're getting with Bruno Fernandes, but you have to plan for the future without him. But it's a big shout. If you're going to say no to that much goals and assists and that much output, that much, numbers on paper, is Cole Palmer going to be the man to consistently do what Bruno Fernandes has been doing?
It's a really difficult one, because I do want to make clear that Cole Palmer, on his day, is a fantastic footballer. He clearly does have a lot of talent and he's had some wonderful moments. But the problem here is he's injured. He needs surgery. Manchester United, as much as there are so many issues with those owners, you'd like to think that they would know better than to buy an injured player and almost do another, Mason Mount situation. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's not Cole Palmer's fault. He clearly does have an issue, but I do think it is a risk to bring in a player that has had so many struggles this season, and I do feel bad for him. To bring him in, I think, is a risk. I understand the idea of Bruno Fernandes is 31, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
So, you know...
He's a freak, though, isn't it, when it comes to fitness? You know, he's Ronaldo levels in terms of his ability
play
to
another
stay
3-4
fit.
years.
This is exactly what I'm going to say. I think long term, you know, Cole Palmer's 23, he's quite young. I think that idea of bringing somebody younger in and a changing of the guard eventually is something that we should do. But you look at Bruno Fernandes, he's 31 years of age. You know exactly what you get with him. We know exactly what he can do. Also, we do have other people that can fit into that role. I'm not saying they're as good as Bruno Fernandes, but we do have players that can play in his position. So it's not like we've got a drought there. And we do need to prioritise somebody more in that midfield, especially with the Casemiro news, etc. And also, like you say, Crook, Bruno Fernandes does not get injured. He has an amazing record. And I think that is a massive, massive selling point. We don't want to sell him, but, you know, for someone else, it's a massive selling point. So as much as I appreciate the talent of Cole Palmer, as things stand, I agree with Crook, and I think you don't want to upset the apple cart. We know exactly what we're getting with Bruno Fernandes. He has shown up for this club time and time again. I understand if people come knocking and there's a certain amount of money on the table. I get why the hierarchy would maybe look at it, but I just think at the moment for us, he's irreplaceable.
He is irreplaceable. And Crookie, last one on transfers. You did touch on it a little while ago about how important the summer is and the 3 key names. Who's the most likely out of Wharton, Baleba and Anderson for Manchester United? Who is the one they really want?
It seems to be that Baleba is top of that list. And I've got to say, he played really well in the game I was at Craven Cottage at the weekend, because he's not had a brilliant season, but by all accounts, United are not put off by his form. They feel like maybe he's been affected by all the speculation. So, yeah, I would put him at the top of the list, and then toss of a coin, I think, between the other two. I think maybe the perception is that Adam Wharton is going to be an easier player to get out of Palace, given that they are a selling club, than maybe to persuade Evangelos Marinakis, tough negotiator, to sell Elliot Anderson. So certainly an interesting one. The other name that got mentioned to me by a good source this week was the boy Siddiqui at Sunderland. He's also on the list.
Yeah, OK. Well, it's going to be an interesting summer. We know we need to rebuild in midfield on top of the last summer that we had, which clearly was very successful.